Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. National Security Advisor John Bolton is confirming in an interview with NPR he was aware of the pending arrest of a Chinese tech company executive, and as President Trump was meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Attention of Wang Guangzhou, the chief financial officer of Huawei, threatening to further disrupt U.S.-China relations. Bolton says the arrest comes amid heightened concerns about technology theft.
Whether you're a free trader or not, but maybe particularly if you're a free trader, you should not turn a blind eye when states, as a matter of national policy, are stealing intellectual property from their competitors.
Meng is suspected of trying to evade U.S. trade curbs on Iran and could be extradited to the U.S. China's foreign ministry has demanded that Canada release Meng, the daughter of the company's founder. The outgoing U.S. ambassador to the UN has challenged the General Assembly today to show it is not anti-Israel by asking it to approve a resolution condemning the Palestinian militant group Hamas. Nikki Haley could not win enough votes, as NPR's Michelle Kelman explains.
Haley's first setback came when the General Assembly voted to require a two-thirds majority for the Hamas resolution to pass. It came up short, despite the ambassador's plea to Arab diplomats.
Is the hatred toward Israel so strong that you'll defend a terrorist organization? One that is directly causing harm to the Palestinian people? Isn't it time to let that go?
She says the UN General Assembly has condemned Israel in hundreds of resolutions, but has never once criticized the Palestinian militant group Hamas for rocket attacks on Israel. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
Defense Secretary Jim Mattis and his counterparts from a dozen other top contributing nations in the global coalition to defeat ISIS met today in Ottawa. As NPR's David Wellner reports, they declared their 79-member coalition to be stronger than ever, that ISIS is headed toward a lasting defeat.
The Defeat ISIS coalition says it's liberated more than 99% of the territory ISIS once held. Aboard his plane, Secretary Mattis says that fight continues.
Been a lot of success, but you've seen it slow down too, as we anticipated, as they fell back to their core area.
Brett McGurk is the special U.S. envoy to the coalition. U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, he says, are bearing down on Najin, an ISIS-held town near Syria's border with Iraq.
They're making pretty good progress, but it's very difficult, and we're not putting any timelines on that, but we review the needs to make sure that operation obviously succeeds.
McGurk says all territory seized from ISIS has been held. David Wellman, NPR News.
Stocks tumbled for a second day before recovering, rattled by the arrest of a key Chinese executive and what that means for U.S.-China trade talks. The Dow was down 79 points. The NASDAQ closed up 29 points today. You're listening to NPR. High school students in France have joined the Yellow Vest movement this week. Young protesters blocking schools and even clashing with police. Jake Saganero in Paris reports security is a major concern across the city this weekend. The government gears up for more protests.
Police arrested more than 700 high school students at protests across France. In Yvelines, a commune west of Paris, young protesters set 2 cars on fire and clashed with police. Protests affected about 300 high schools. The students are against recent education reforms that include a new university selection system and additional fees. Although the government has announced it's completely axing President Emmanuel Macron's green taxes that set off the Yellow Vest movement, police in Paris are still gearing up for another weekend of potentially violent protests. Banks and shops are going on lockdown. The Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and other major sites will also be closed Saturday as a precaution. For NPR News, I'm Jake Saganero in Paris.
The Trump administration appears to be moving forward with plans that would allow oil and gas drilling on huge swaths of land that were given protected status as a result of the imperiled greater sage grouse. Protections for parts of the American West were put in place under the Obama administration, aimed at protecting the ground-dwelling birds known for their elaborate mating rituals. Habitat losses and disease decimated some populations of the birds. Environmentalists say lifting a ban on drilling and other activities in their protective range could doom the birds to extinction. Crude oil futures were down more than 2.5% today, ending the session at $51.49 a barrel on the New York Mercantile Exchange. I'm Jack Speer, NPR News in Washington.
proposed a deal which she had brokered with European leaders. But the finance minister told Parliament it's not realistic to renegotiate. And he pressured MPs to approve her plan when they vote next week.
Mr. Speaker, I have observed this process at close quarters for 2.5 years, and I'm absolutely clear about one thing. This deal is the best deal to exit the EU that is available or that is going to be available. The idea that there is an option of renegotiating at the 11th hour is simply a delusion. We need to be honest with ourselves. The alternatives to this deal are no deal or no Brexit.
Right now, lawmakers in the UK are in the middle of a 5-day debate over the Prime Minister's plan. If they voted down, then it is uncertain territory for the UK. Okay, thousands of French troops will be deployed in Paris on Saturday, and many more across the country ahead of more protests by the so-called Yellow Vest movement. The government is trying to stave off another round of violence. During last week's riots, cars were torched, national monuments vandalized, dozens of people were hurt in clashes with police. For weeks, the protesters have demanded economic reform, starting with relief from rising fuel prices. French authorities are told these are not legitimate protesters.
Jamais depuis 2005, parce que nous avons en face de nous. We are facing people who are not here to protest, but to smash. The ones who have the means to not give them free rein. We have mobilized a considerable amount of forces. 8,000 in Paris, which is much more than last Saturday, and in total for France. Not 65,000 as announced earlier, but 89,000. So it is truly exceptional mobilization.
French officials will close the Eiffel Tower as well as other famous landmarks ahead of those weekend protests. Well, this is CNN Newsroom. I'm John Vors at the CNN Centre. Stay with us. Amanpour is up next.
America's premier home purchase lender. We've created a new way to protect you from unpredictable interest rates. Our exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, you lock your interest rate for up to 90 days. Then, if rates go up, your rate stays locked. But if rates go down, your rate drops. Either way, you win. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply.
Pros in the know start with Lowe's, because at Lowe's, pros can get the latest power tools from trusted brands. Right now, you can buy the new Bosch Core 18-volt 2-tool combo kit for $229 and get one of 3 select cordless bare tools free, worth up to $199. Plus, you can save time by ordering online and picking up in store. Stop by the Pro Desk or visit Lowe'sForPros.com for details. So, Pro, now that you know, start with Lowe's. Offer valid through 1/30/2019 while supplies last. U.S. only.
Traveling home for the holidays? Well, with the Capital One Venture Card, you earn unlimited double miles on any purchase you make today and every day. And those miles add up to get you closer to that trip home. Every time you pump gas, double miles. Every time you get your nails done, double miles. Or if you're in charge of buying the turkey, yep, double miles. You earn unlimited double miles on every purchase, and then you go. The Capital One Venture Card, the card that takes you there. What's in your wallet?
Capital One Bank USA N.A. So I got her a Peloton bike and
I found it. He got me a Peloton.
she still has no idea.
So obvious, right?
I mean, she
May have dropped a hint or two.
She loves studio workouts.
But I just don't have time to get there.
It's got all kinds of classes. Endurance rides.
30-minute pop rides.
Even country.
His thing, not mine.
I'm definitely riding it too.
I guess he can ride it too.
This holiday, give the perfect gift for them and you. Give the gift of Peloton at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom to try the bike.
A wedding is a beautiful thing, as long as it doesn't fall on a Saturday during college football season. Those Saturdays are reserved for the union of two rivals, a celebration of fans coming together to trash talk one another. At Buffalo Wild Wings, we believe that a wedding planner needs to own a football calendar, and our bars are full of beer-drinking, wing-eating fans who agree with us. Unless you're secretly trying to cut down your guest list, then kudos on the great strategy. Buffalo Wild Wings. Escape to football. Please drink responsibly.
Geico presents eyewitness interviews with inanimate objects.
This is Belinda Collins, live on the scene of a recent lightning storm. Here to describe the event, a TV tray.
I was watching football and holding a plate of meatloaf when kabam! A bolt of lightning slams into the apartment, blowing out the TV and surround sound.
Anything you could have done to help?
Ma'am, I'm a foldable table, not an electrician.
Your TV tray can't help you in a lightning storm, but the Geico Insurance Agency can help you get covered for personal property damage. Go to geico.com to see how affordable renter's insurance can be.
It's time to find the one, the perfect Christmas tree. And you do that at the Home Depot, where you'll be surrounded by a wonder-inducing selection of fresh-cut trees and greenery. You'll find the one, and then the Home Depot will net it and load it in your car for you. Or, if you want one brought to your door, you can order your live tree online and it will be delivered free. Fresh-cut trees and greenery. This is how we owe Christmas tree. The Home Depot. More safe, more doable. Continental U.S. only. Selection and prices vary by store.
And welcome to Amanpour. Here's what's coming up.
For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself.
As President Bush 1 is laid to rest, one of the Senate's true moderates heads home in defeat. Did compromise kill Claire McCaskill's Senate campaign? And Ashley Judd, award-winning actress and activist and Me Too champion, whose roles live up to her ideals. Also, children trapped in poverty. Are their parents to blame? Los Angeles Times journalist Steve Lopez on his extensive reporting and the surprising reader response. Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Christiane Amanpour in London. In saying farewell to George H.W. Bush, the American political world is not just mourning the man, but to a large extent, the loss of a spirit of moderate compromise that Bush exemplified. Missouri Senator Claire McCaskill was herself part of what seems to be a dying breed. Moderates of either party willing to do the horse trading, making policy and passing legislation for the people. But seeking that middle ground may have cost her her job. McCaskill is a Democrat. She was defending her seat in a state where Donald Trump won by almost 20%. She was the top target of conservative dark money and slammed in negative ads. And Donald Trump himself campaigned heavily for her opponent. Meanwhile, McCaskill was taking friendly fire from the left wing of her own party for failing to meet so-called ideological purity tests. Despite the blue wave, despite the surge of support for women candidates in these midterms, Claire McCaskill is now packing her things and heading home to Missouri. In her concession speech, she told her voters that she's not going away from public life, and she definitely won't keep quiet on the sidelines. To that end, Senator Claire McCaskill joins me now from Washington. And welcome to our program, Senator.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
I mean, is it sad? I feel a little awful, sort of, writing your obituary as we speak and, portraying you with your bags packed and your tail between the legs and heading home.
Well, my tail is not between my legs. I hate losing. Let's just say that. I'm a very competitive person, but I am really cheerful. And in fact, it's bugging all my colleagues that you're not supposed to be this happy. But this place has gotten really tough. And I feel like there are other things I can do to contribute. So I feel very fortunate that I've been able to serve, but I'm also excited about the next chapter.
Well, we did say you said yourself you're not going to stay quietly on the sidelines. What is your next chapter? Will it be in political life?
I do not believe I will ever run for office again. But there are other ways that I can let this mouth of mine, it's gotten me in trouble many times, do its work. And now I am not constrained by the discipline that I felt like I had to embrace in order to get things done. You can't really engage in kind of hot rhetoric, political rhetoric, if you're still trying to find that common ground and accomplish things. I will not have that responsibility. So now I can can be a little bit more unhinged, so to speak.
Well, we look forward to an unhinged Senator McCaskill, or former Senator McCaskill, but let's just pick up what you just said. You can't be totally frank if you're trying to be in the the moderate, the middle, the common ground, which is necessary to actually pass legislation and make policy. I mean, how much of that was your undoing in this particular midterm re-election campaign?
Well, honestly, we had record turnout of Democrats in Missouri. The problem really didn't turn out to be that my party didn't support me because I wasn't pure enough. The problem really was the enthusiasm that really ramped up after the Kavanaugh hearings and after so many visits by the president. My opponent jumped on the back of Donald Trump, grabbed him around the neck really hard, and did not let go. And Donald Trump carried him across the finish line by really hitting some buttons, and of course the spectral roll around the Kavanaugh confirmation, and what he did by manipulating, I think, the public impression about the caravan also contributed to a level of enthusiasm that was very high on the Republican side that frankly wasn't there 3 or 4 months ago.
So let's just talk about the Kavanaugh. You did vote against him, but when you were sort of campaigning, you didn't really bring up the hot button social issues that seem to, really have America gripped by whatever one might say, abortion and the others, and what might happen under a Supreme Court with him now as an associate justice. You talked actually about campaign finance. Was that wise? Do you think now, in retrospect, you should have highlighted the things many women are concerned about?
Well, frankly, the issue that really was more difficult was that I had been in office a long time, and regardless of how you felt, one way or the other about Kavanaugh, it wasn't pretty. It was not the Senate at its finest moment. It was chaos, and it was not dignified. And we certainly are not getting an example of dignified from the Oval Office. So the fact that I have been in the public life for so long, and the fact that people look upon Washington as really a place where nothing good happens, that really was probably more damaging to me with outstate Missouri, the rural parts of my state, and obviously Trump's support for my opponent in the rural. The divide we have in our country is as much rural and urban as it is Democrat and Republican.
So let me just point out then and see whether you agree with what I suggested, which was that part of the outpouring in the press and in the streets and on the ground and certainly in the cathedrals for President George H.W. Bush was a sort of maybe rosy, misty-eyed memory of a moment when there were gentlemen and gentlewomen in politics, mostly gentlemen, who skewed to the middle ground even in the Republican Party and were civil, believed in civil discourse. I mean, Bush's kinder, gentler America, whether it happened or not, he uttered those words. Do you agree that that was what was being mourned as much as the passing of a man, a president?
I do, and that's one of the reasons I want to be careful to not give the impression that I think I was defeated because I was a moderate. I still believe there's a wide swath of voters in America that don't look through the lens of political party, but look through the lens of, well, what are you actually getting done? Even though the noise is generated by the ends. The elections are decided by those folks in the middle. And we had a moderate in Arizona, a Democrat win in a state that hasn't had a Democratic senator for many years. I do believe that our next election cycle, there will be more and more people that will go, okay, we're worn out with all of this. We're worn out with the tweets. We're worn out with the food fight between the Democrats and the Republicans. Let's try to get behind someone who can knit this thing together and get back to the days where everyone realizes that compromise was actually part of our founding fathers' most important idea for this country.
And yet it is blatantly and blaringly absent today, and you have tweeted, in fact, just this week, just yesterday, you tweeted, so sad that our dinner to say goodbye to senators who are leaving is not bipartisan. If we cannot be together to even recognize those who are leaving, what hope is there for this place? Why didn't it happen? 2 words. Mitch McConnell. I mean, that's pretty bizarre.
Yes, it is. And he made this decision when they took over the majority a few years ago, said that we were no longer going to have this dinner together. He certainly has the power to say, you know, I made a mistake. Let's bring everybody together and do this dinner together. And he has not done that. And I think it's a terrible commentary on what this place has come to, that we can't even get together to wish. I mean, you know, Bob Corker's a good friend of mine, my Republican colleague who's retiring. Jeff Flake and I have worked together on many things. Orrin Hatch and I are buddies. We don't agree on everything, but we're buddies. And the notion that we can't all be together and wish each other well on an evening like that, the American people ought to be mad about it, and they ought to express that to Mitch McConnell in every way that they can.
But before you're mad about it, you've got to understand why. I mean, why on earth would you ban a dinner? I actually don't get it. Let's say you're in his shoes. Why do you think he would do that? What's the point?
You know, maybe he had just taken over as leader and he wanted to consolidate the members of his caucus around him and thought that maybe not having to be bipartisan in that evening, I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I don't get it. But he's a hyper-political guy. He's very skilled. I mean, don't get me wrong. Mitch McConnell is hyper-focused and very accomplished. I mean, he's done some amazing things that, frankly, it's hard to imagine they've gotten away with, like refusing to hold a hearing on a Supreme Court justice nominated under the Constitution. But he is very good at staying focused on what's most important to him, and that's making sure that he stays majority floor leader.
So, I mean, you said, you know, hyper-focused, very skilled, and clearly the Senate stayed Republican. In fact, Republicans picked up seats. Obviously, it was different in the House. I believe you Democrats flipped 41 seats. What about 2020, though? You know, clearly the president will run again and presumably unopposed on his side. And nobody quite knows who's going to step up into the spotlight on your side. Already today we heard that Deval Patrick has decided not to throw his hat in the ring. And he cited, you know, the cruelty of the process. And you yourself just said it's become so tough here. I mean, what hope then is there for, you know, a future of the kind of moderate civil politicians that you're calling for?
I think the American people will have an appetite for that kind of politician in 2020. And I'm confident that we have a lot of people that have expressed interest in running for president. And, you know, the field will winnow down the people that are inspirational and that can convince America that they can change things and that maybe they can bring some stability and consistency back to the Oval Office and particularly to foreign policy. I think they will have success. And we've got a different map in 2020. We have Republicans running in states that Donald Trump did not win. So that's a reverse of what we had in 2018. I think we'll have a very good year in 2020, and I hope that moderates know that we need them in Washington and that they are a national treasure, because that's how we actually get things done, is finding that sweet spot of compromise in the middle. We don't get much done if all we do is sit on opposite sides of the room and yell at each other.
And you did actually say on this issue that if moderates aren't allowed into the party, or your party, that would be a recipe for disaster. And you did, I mean, we talked about this issue of ideological purity. You did say to NPR, this demand for purity, this looking down your nose at people who want to compromise, again, is a recipe for disaster. That's clearly happening in your party to an extent.
Well, it is, but primarily by people who run in very blue places. And I just want everyone to take a deep breath and look at the map. There's an electoral college. We cannot win the presidency on the two coasts. We have to have Midwest states. And in the Midwest, they want somebody who works hard. They want somebody who is going to tell the truth. They want somebody who wants to get things done. And I hope that those values are embraced by our nominee, because if not, they're going to have a hard time getting the electoral votes they need to defeat Donald Trump.
So what do you reckon the Democratic strategy should be going forward for the presidential of 2020? It was quite clear that under Nancy Pelosi's leadership, it was not about attack Trump. It was about healthcare for the people. It was about issues that people cared about. Do you think that will change now that the House has leadership of all these committees? Do you think it will get much more investigative, attacking, personal And how should the Democrats resist that if you think they should?
Well, I think they should. Not that I'm a big on oversight. In fact, I've done more oversight in the Senate than I've really done of anything else. So I certainly support the oversight, and there needs to be oversight. But they need to be very strategic about the type of oversight they're doing, the prioritization of the right oversight, because if it's all about going after Donald Trump and his administration,